Hiya people, I'm Sam. We're back at Shelter Studios, and today we're answering the age-old question of who can get the best drum sound, a drummer or an audio engineer. I am joined by Maria, who amongst many things is a drummer, and Ben, who is an audio engineer, does recording of drums, mixing of drums, live sound with drummers. We best get prepping. The rules here are quite simple. You've got 5 minutes to plan, 20 minutes to set up, and 5 minutes to record. We each aim to get a take that's about 30 seconds long. We've got a maximum of 8 microphones each, with stereo microphones being considered 2 microphones, and in post you can adjust pan, volume and polarity, but nothing else. So any EQ, compression, saturation, it's got to be done on the way in. And I cannot explain anything about the studio, how it's set up, how any of the gear works, any of the characteristics of it to anyone else. First up, we've got Maria. Hi, you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Got 20 minutes, let's go. Maria is an actor, a singer, a dancer, a multi-instrumentalist. She writes music for musicals, and most crucially here, she plays the drums. She is not, however, an audio engineer, and she has virtually no experience recording drums. Right, so what's the plan?
So, okay, I'm setting the drum kick at the moment, and I have Louis microphone. So then I'm gonna use a dynamic mic to set on snare and another one on hi-hat. Then I'm gonna use 2 mics above the kit, and I'm gonna use AKG, the condense mics, and I also gonna use this tom mics as well. And just to get the sound from a little bit like from far away, I'm gonna use one of them.
And that is time. Ready? Let's get going.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. Next up is Ben. Right, Maria's done. You're up. Ready?
Yeah, let's get going.
Ben is an audio engineer who records drums, mixes drums, and does live sound with drums. He is also a guitarist who plays primarily in metal or guitar-centric bands. And he is not a drummer and has virtually no experience drumming. So what's the plan?
Well, I'm currently just setting up the snare top stand for the... I'm going to use a 57 on snare top and a Beta 57 on snare bottom. Polarity inverted and everything like this. And I'm going to just try and align them, obviously. I just find that the frequency response of the Beta 57, it sounds really nice on the under snare. So yeah, I tend to use that for that application. For the rest of the kit, I'm gonna I'm going for like a sort of Tame Impala, sort of a bit of a push thing. So I'm just gonna have some overheads. I'm thinking the Lewitt ones that you had as overheads before. I'm just gonna have whatever the kick mic was earlier inside the kick, although I might back it off a bit so I get a bit more of the boobiness. I'm considering micing the toms close as well, but we'll see. I've definitely got plenty of leeway to add whatever I like. So, or I may even do a room mic.
So, what's the plan on the way in for pre's?
Well, pretty much everything's going to be pretty just standard as is coming in, but I am going to use these Brick Lane compressors on Opto just to kind of crush the overheads a bit on the way in, just to try and imagine what might be a satisfying amount of compression to apply on the way in, just to give it that sort of vintage sort of sound.
Right, time's up. Let's go. And finally, me.
Okay, Sam, it is now your turn.
Let's go. I'm an audio engineer who records drums, mixes drums, but specifically I record drums in this room with this equipment and oftentimes with this drum kit, which hopefully gives me an advantage. I'm not a drummer and I have virtually no experience playing drums.
Okay, Sam. So what's your plan now?
I am going for a kind of hammered drum sound, like very crushed, heavily limited drum sound. I've got 2 room mics up behind the camera which are feeding into the brick lanes, which are probably like compressing that. I'm going to do just a snare under, no snare top, hats. I'm going to have a kick out, but no kick in, which is going to be a condenser. And if I've got time, I'm going to have a kind of half Glyn Johns where I've got a condenser coming over the top of the floor tom, but I'm not bothering with the overhead because all that's going to be taken care of by the room mics.
All right, then, time is up.
Cool, let's go. Maria went for a quite traditional close drum sound with a kick in, a snare top, a hat top, and a pair of overheads. Her mic choices were a little stereotypical. The Lewitt Rex is the most traditional kick mic looking mic we've got here, and that's what she went for kick in. She went with a 57 on snare top and hat top, which is a good choice, but a common choice. It's, kind of the done thing. She believed that her overheads were C414s. They were not, they were actually LCT240s, and her preamp choices were just like linear, so she went with inputs 1 through 5 without really thinking about what was on the other end of that. She gain staged a little low, it was fine, we boosted in post and it came out clean, wasn't many issues there, and she ended up with a good tight drum sound, good sort of phase coherence that you could use on a track. So, what are we thinking?
Considering, very good, being that, yes, not your sort of main forte recording, yeah. Yeah, obviously the cymbals, you could hear, and especially like the low tom at the end, that sounded a little bit too close to it. But yeah, overall I'd say not bad.
The kick was nice and clear and firm. I think a lot of that was coming from the overheads. I think the thing is, you had the volume on those speakers to absolute max. So I think it's just that it was a little bit quiet. So that's perhaps a gain staging thing that will, could be worked on. Yeah. But yeah, no, very, very clear kick sound. It's the thing that stood out most to me. So that you got a lot of clarity in the kick, largely from the mics around it, not necessarily the mic you had on the kick.
Yeah.
That was kind of adding more thump. Cool. Let's look at Ben's. Ben was aiming for a slightly heavier and more distorted tone. His plan was more thought through, but he did run into some issues with timing and not knowing the specifics of this equipment. Some of the mic choices he made were a little more thought through, particularly with the 57 and the Beta 57 on snare, and he put a lot more time into checking phase alignment and his mic positioning. He did run into an issue on hats, given that he used a slightly weird microphone that looks like a dynamic but is actually a condenser, and so he didn't put phantom to it, and so no sound came out from that. He EQ'd on the way in with some of the SSL channel strips, and his room mics had some heavy compression with the brick lanes, but he didn't know that there's a built-in saturation circuit on those, so he didn't get the extra grit from those compressors that he could have done if he knew the studio better. All in all, he put out a good sound that worked with his style. It had clarity when it needed to, but had that bit of grit and roominess to it as well. So yeah, sounds cool. Thing that's sticking out to me is those toms are nice and defined. I think having a lack of close mics on those toms has really helped you. I think the problem with the snare sound is that you've got too many close mics and you've ended up catching so much of that ring because it's a pretty resonant kit and you've got more of that resonance than anything else. Kick is nice and defined, good thump to it. And the closeness of it sounds good.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. My issues with it really was, to me at least, it sounded a bit like the... I did run the overhead mics quite hard through the brick lanes, but I still think I should have backed them off quite a bit, knowing that I wanted to do that. Because, especially like the ride cymbals sounded like quite in your face. But overall, not a bad sound really. I don't think. I definitely agree that the kick is super thumpy, but overall, all right.
good.
Yeah, not so bad. Yeah.
I ended up going for a much roomier drum sound, with even my close mics being more focused on those peripherals. My kick was recorded with one condenser mic, which was in figure 8 mode, so I was getting some of that kick, but also the room sound directly in front of the kick. My room mics were going through limiters being sort of crushed so hard that it kind of felt like transient shaping, so each attack was at the exact same level as the tail that followed it. My room mics were run through Camdens by Cranbourne with low-end saturator on, straight into the Brick Lanes with their saturation circuits engaged, and everything else went through the SSLs with little bits of compression and EQ on the way in. I balanced all this in such a way that I kind of ended up with a natural sidechain compression feel on the kick. There was so much sub-information there that it just cut right through and you kind of couldn't hear anything else for a few moments after the kick hit. Overall, I was able to go for a sound that was powerful and large feeling despite the small space, and I can largely attribute that to the fact that I record in this space and I know what the space is like, and I know how to use my equipment to get that sound.
Yeah, very good. Much more kind of roomy approach to the kit generally. That sort of the kick was like super powerful, loads of like sub stuff in there, but in a way that sort of, I know that added something naturally to the overall sound you were going for there. I think I think overall great job.
Sounds really good.
Cheers. Yeah, I was going for that kind of almost feels like a natural side chain on that kick. It cuts through so powerfully that you can't really hear anything else for a second. Toms were a bit, especially because I kind of went for a half Glyn Johns, so I just had the mic over that floor tom, and when that gets hit, the sort of didn't properly deal with the resonant frequencies in that tom, but with longer than 20 minutes we can fix that.
Well, definitely, yeah, absolutely.
So overall, that seems to have gone well. So as a closing point, the thing that's sticking out to me here is that the non-audio engineer amongst us got a good, clean, clear drum sound, but she could not get the exact thing that was in her head. The place where audio engineers are going to make the difference is when you have a vision, but you're not quite sure how to make it work. You can get a clean drum sound pretty easily these days. You kind of just put a microphone in front of it. But if you want an exact sound, if you have a sound in your head that you don't know how to recreate, that's when an engineer is going to provide you with value. That's when the knowledge of space, equipment, and the physics behind sound is going to elevate you to that next level. If you do have a project that you want an audio engineer to help you with, our email address, website, all that in the description. Get in touch with us. We'd love to help you with your next project. Cheers, guys.